So I just wanted to hear from you in terms of Pan-Africanism. What does that actually mean to you?
I think what was important for me really, I touched on it earlier in terms of blending in a film that can explore cultural identities without saying, hey, look at me, I'm Indian. Hey, look at me, I'm African. And so visually, we chose Zanzibar and Swahili as that, and it reflects in the music. And when I say African, there's South African music in there, there's Nigerian music in there, there's Tanzanian music in there, we even have a Zimbabwean collaboration in there. So it may not come across in the actors, but if you look at the film as a whole, musically and visually, that would be my biggest expression of Pan-African.
All right, you guys, let's get into first.
There is a movement promoting our stories, and many of us grew up with a strong craving for images we can relate to. Production teams, writers, creative heads have come together to tell stories, and this podcast is their voice. The themes covered are very relevant to the Black community, and anyone concerned by the social and racial injustices that are in place to stifle this voice. The Pan-African voice is not easily heard, and here we talk about our movies, that film or doc which you heard about but didn't get to see. What was the story? Where can I watch it? It now has a voice. Tune in. We walk you through these stories and interview the filmmakers. Welcome. Karibu sana. Karibu sana.
And starting right on the lens. Ready? And action.
Thank you guys for sitting with us. I'll go ahead and give a little summary plot before we get into the questions and get to know more about you guys. You guys are the cast of The Honeymoon, and on the night before her wedding, Kat's fiancé decides to dump her. In order to cheer her up, her best friends, Noks and Lu, persuade a devastated Kat to go on her honeymoon to Zanzibar with them. But will her friendship survive the wild time in paradise? It's a feel-good whirlwind comedy focused on female friendships. The Honeymoon is a Pan-African blend of Girls Trip meets Hangover, spiced up with Asian, South, and East African cultures with popping Afrobeats in the background, which I personally really loved. It was very entertaining watching it. I cannot lie.
You've seen it?
Of course I have. What? That's why you're here. Some of the themes centered around this movie were definitely friendship, marriage, love, and gender equality.
Right. Yeah, we've seen it. It was like so refreshing to watch. Thanks so much for like all the hard work you clearly put into it, because we loved watching it. And I just wanted to quickly introduce everybody here today. We have quite the group of The Honeymoon, starting from Bianca Isaac and Gregory Mdanji. And then we have the lead actors, Kajal Bagwandeen. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
that's okay.
Feel free to correct me. And then the Tumi Morake and Mini Lamini. Again,
hey!
I'm gonna let you know the middle intro, not necessarily in that order, and do correct me if I've mispronounced any of the names.
Kajal.
I think it's Kajal.
And Jill, yeah.
Kajal, okay. Okay, do you want to start us off, Bianca? Just say a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Bianca Isaac. I'm the writer-director of The Honeymoon and the owner of Fig Jam Entertainment, the production company.
I'm Gregory Mtanji. Instead of Mtanji, it's Mtanji. It's a hard TH. And I'm the producer of The Honeymoon. I run the company Worthy Films. And yeah, that's who I am.
Okay, I'll go. I'm Kajal. I'm an actor in the film. I'm also the casting director and one of the producers on The Honeymoon.
I'm Mini Damini. I am one of the actors on The Honeymoon. This is actually my first movie role, so I'm very excited. And just excited to be on this project and excited for everyone who hasn't seen it to get to see it.
Hi, I'm Tumi Barake, and I'm also one of the actresses on the film. I play Nok.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's Nok.
Oh, no.
All those characters just bring such a smile to our faces having watched it. And just to start us off, I wanted to talk about your location choices. They add so much vibrancy to the film. And a big congratulations also to, again, I might be mispronouncing, but to your director of photography, Tiane Nyambe. He did such a great job. But I just wanted to hear from you, like, how important was the setting to the story?
It was really important. I mean, we tossed up a few ideas and we thought, okay, if you were going to go on a ghost ship, going inside your country is not as exciting as leaving your country. And so we tossed around a few options. We originally had Mauritius on the table, and then we had gone there and made our choices. We were very happy until COVID hit. And then we had to redesign the film. And Zanzibar, we had been there once before. So Zanzibar became our very next choice. And speak about a blessing in disguise, because aesthetically, it's way more beautiful. You know, you could walk into certain areas in Durban and find Mauritius. That's how closely connected we are visually. So Zanzibar really brought a lot of aesthetics to the film that kind of showed us as Pan-African in a way. You know, it's not just a beach location. There's beautiful Stone Town. There's so many things. And I think the film chose to explore that as we went around, as opposed to saying, hey, look where we are, establishing shots all over and carry on. We chose each location to drive a very specific part of the story and character. And then obviously shooting in our hometown, we got to shoot in our hometown, Durban in South Africa. So Kajo and Minnie and I are from Durban. And we've taken on Gregory from Polokwane and Tumi from Bloom.
Okay.
And going along with location, I think I mentioned in the summary, the cultural aspects you guys were able to bring to the table. It really made the film stand out from other comedies. There was an immense amount of variety, which I really have never seen before like that in an African film. I feel like they usually kind of just stick to one country. Why did you choose such a blend? And was that also important to you?
I think my biggest, and this is going to sound weird, but my biggest blend was nobody wants to go to the Kruger for their honeymoon, right? We all want to go to an exotic place. And so Zanzibar is that exotic place that gives you everything. So those were the choices. And it was kind of chicken and egg, because you had to write for a place and then you had to go and see that place and go, all right, everything I've written, does it have a space here? Or how do I change that aspect of the script to get there? And shooting in Zanzibar is not easy. Logistically, you know, it's a small little island. They don't have CONET systems. They don't have the systems that are required in our industry to function. So we basically packed everyone in a plane with our equipment and went over there. It was hard. It was rough, but getting there, and we worked with local filmmakers. It just ended up being a beautiful experience.
Yeah, and also the Indian culture and the Afro and Afro-Asian, that type of blend, I think it's quite strong, especially in Durban. In Durban, you've got, you know, a strong link of Indians and Africans, and there's a group of ladies like this in Durban everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like they share the same thought on what they perceive as paradise and what they perceive as, you know, African, and what they value as friends, and what they experience as friends. And I think that's a nice way of saying you don't have to go to another country. You can go to a country where you can still have some certain similarities to who you are, from where you're from, you know, Africa and India. So there's a lot of influence of that in Zanzibar as well.
And even for the cast, like, how was it being on screen and working with such a diverse group?
I think we're quite used to that in our industry, really. And like, if you've grown up in the industry, we work with different cultures all the time. As much as we are all African, we have our own nuances and our own little traditions, which we always bring to the table, or it's part of us. So it was like being home, very much so. And Zanzibar especially it's such an incredibly rich culture, and you just want to be a part of it. So for us as being South Africans, or whether we are African and of me, like of Indian descent, it was just like we were sponges and we just wanted to absorb everything around us and be part of it. And I really do believe, like Bianca said, that Zanzibar was a blessing in disguise, because as much as Mauritius does have the same sort of Indian roots with indentured laborers, I I love it, but it doesn't have the same texture as Zanzibar has. And I think it really just like, it was woven into the film really beautifully.
Yeah, I think Zanzibar as a setting, you know, when I speak to a lot of my friends overseas who are looking at coming to Africa, but want sort of a beach paradise, I'll always recommend a Zanzibar over maybe a Seychelles or a Mauritius, because there's something about Zanzibar that still has that very international feel, so that turquoise blue waters, you know, like a Maldives, but it's still got that real African element. I mean, I remember the one night we went partying and this club was so hot and we were sweating and it was just the most uncomfortable place you could ever think of. But it was so nice because the music was so good and so African, and everyone that was there was from every corner of the world. I mean, we had so many different people in one space. Like I said, hot, stuffy, but the music was good. The vibe was good. And there's something about Zanzibar that has such a beautiful soul. But I think for me, when it comes to this movie, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but my great-grandfather was Indian. So when I saw the mix of the cultures, I felt like this was so true to who I am as an actress or as a person. And here's my first opportunity to be in a film. And this film is a melting pot of so many different cultures and so representative of the place that I come from. So I was very excited to be able to immerse myself in a script that I felt like almost I wore as a badge of honor and still wear as a badge of honor. And that's really, really cool. And I get to almost pay homage to my Indian roots. And I think that's really awesome. And I get to wear a sari in the movie. That was so dope. But yeah, it was just very cool. It just felt like a representation of what Durban is. And then it also just felt like what I want the rest of the world to know what Africa looks like. And that's what got me excited about the story, the locations, and how we were able to portray that.
I agree. It felt like our locations were like another character in the film, because you have Zanzibar by the beach, touristy, gorgeous sand, let's be half naked and love it. And then you go into Stone Town where you need to cover up. It's, you know, tiny alleyways and all these people, these markets. It felt like even our characters shifted in every single space. So yeah, that was really dope. I enjoyed that. But, you know, in South Africa, I think the mix of culture, thank goodness this film is only in English, because in South Africa, we speak the way we drive. We're constantly changing lanes. So if we had shot it that way, there would have been subtitles from start to finish.
I'm sure Bianca cut all of those scenes out.
Yes, and that is exactly why I can't marry you, kitty cat.
What the Divine said he wants space, so let's be spaced out all the way in Zanzibar.
Absolutely not. No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, Vivanna's already paid for us.
I said no. Noks hates Vivan, and Lu, well, she's always just busy with her life.
And now they want you to turn your honeymoon into an adventure.
It's Katya's time now.
You're my bestie, yeah, you never test me. Always got my back when I need to come save me.
Put up something nice, guys, and let's go out and meet new people.
Let's get never left me, giving her my love, cause I know that I'm desperate. Never cut you down, you're my number one. And I
Mommy
never
will be back
for another one.
It's about to get lit.
You bestie, my ride or die, you're my better half. You're the real deal.
What is going on right now?
We got a main phone and barricades and you put in the like a race on track. We hood rap.
Chase my coffin, Zanzibar. Try like 10 Ks. I think I'm gonna die.
This entire trip has got nothing to do with taking my mind off Vivan.
I come from the motherland. Check out the body to understand. Position my crime.
Hey guys, wait. I need to pee.
So ladies, where to from here? Feel like an adventure?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Pinky promise.
Yeah.
Oh, we love you. We love you, Kitty.
So what do? You DBK. Don't be cack. All right. DBK.
I like how you said that, how the setting in itself is a character within the movie too. With the location and the adventurous storyline, I feel like the audience's attention was very cantered on the characters. And to the characters, or to the producers, how difficult was it to cast the main characters? Or was it difficult at all?
In my films, when I do my leads, I generally don't cast them. I love to hang out with I know there are sometimes way before, and all it takes is a lunch and a conversation, and then I can continue writing for them. So my leads generally don't audition for me. That's how I cast them. Kajol and I, this is our second film together. So that was easy to me. This is our second film together. But in my first film, she was like way too big for me. So I could only get her in for like a tiny part.
Like a day.
Like a day. I was like, come do this to me.
Then it took one tequila date.
One tequila date to solve all of it. And Minnie Dlamini is someone I've always wanted to work with. So when I got Kajol to handle our casting for us. So when she set up a meeting, the moment I saw her walking, I remember she was wearing a white dress. I saw her walking in and I was like, done. We sat down, we had some lunch, it was done. And then the three of us had a drunken dinner to figure out if we really like each other or not and if we're going to go forward with this. That's how we class.
There was lots of tequila.
Now the film makes sense. After you explained the casting process, it was just so organic. And I think what's also was refreshing, I think, compared to like a lot of the stories on kind of cultural mixes or diversity that we see here in the States, the issues or the cultural like clashes are sometimes center stage in the story. But I just love how for you, it was just in the backdrop. It was just, like you said, a display of, yeah, this is Africa, all of Africa, and then that way it wasn't about, why this along with that, and it allowed for the focus to be on the characters. Like Sydney was saying, it's really good to watch.
Speaking of the characters as well. Sorry, Bianca, I just wanted to reiterate what you were talking about in terms of we didn't audition for you. I think it's important to reiterate the fact that you actually wrote these characters for us. It's one thing to say you want to work with someone. It's another thing to have someone come to you and say, I've written this character for you. I think as actresses, we get given so many different roles to read and we have to almost simulate and draw from either our personal experiences or from people that we've seen or sort of research and try to create these characters. And, when someone comes to you and says, this is the essence of who you are from what I've gotten from meeting you, but this is the character that I've actually written for you, I think it's absolutely such a privilege. And I think it's an opportunity that I think a lot of actors and actresses, especially globally, don't get. We get given these roles and you just have to do it. But when someone comes to you and says, I've written this role for you, I mean, those are the conversations you want to entertain because they don't come very often.
I mean, that makes sense. I know how you were just talking about how you were identifying with your character culturally. For Kajol, and I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, Kajol, that's right.
Kajol and Osei, am I saying that right as well?
To me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I missed that. Okay.
Yes. How would you guys say that you identified the most with your character? What stuck out to you about your character? That saying that it was written for you guys.
I feel, to be honest, because the first time I worked with Bianca, she'd cast me in a role that nobody in this country's ever thought to cast me as. And so when she called me now for another film, I was like, okay, what are we doing now? And then she gave me my alter ego. I was like, how have you written a version of myself that has not grown up? Because that is me. I was going, OMG, this is the ungrown up me. I can completely see myself. If I hadn't got married and had children, that would be me. And so I was like, this is frighteningly accurate in terms of the wildness. And it gave me space to play. because much as I'm a trained actress, I also feel like I'm one of those children who color outside the lines. So I always need to work with people who are just going to let me play. And so I couldn't be lazy because Noks is not me. I'm a whole lot more conservative, but I also had to find playful me. Yeah, so yeah, it really was a privilege. You know, when you get somebody writing for you like that, you're under pressure to deliver, because you also don't want people watching the movie and going, well, Tumi was being Tumi, really. We just watched her being wild. You know, I just love that people will go, that felt too much like her, but I know that's not her, but that felt a little too close to the bone.
We know each other from uni, so it's like, let me take university chick.
Bianca, then I must ask you about Kat then. Which version of Kajol did you take? For Kat? If I may ask, because actually we've never had this conversation.
No, we haven't actually. I get, Kajol, for me, she's a perfectionist, right? And no matter what she does, whether she's sending you a gift, writing a message, or asking you out to lunch, she's a perfectionist in that way. And the last character I wrote, actually both the characters I wrote for you always throw your life into turmoil. And I was like, okay, let me just throw her into some turmoil, because Kat is the complete opposite of who she is. She's happily married. She's got a kid. Well, I'll tell you about the kid stories just now. She's got a kid. She in her career, she knows what she wants. She does the things. And I thought, I'm going to throw her out of the box and have her disappointed in love, questioning herself, and see her bring that character to life. So I took my section cats.
Ironically, though, I mean, me being a perfectionist is something I'm working on, because it's a terrible thing. And Bianca is right. I've always strived for that, but there is no such thing. And only let's say after I had a child, did I realize that, hell no, none of this is ever attainable in life. And Bianca does do this. She sort of throws me into the deep end. And it was ironic because this script was written, was in the process way before I had a baby, before COVID, all of those things. But I think my real journey to self only started after I had a baby, because that hit me for a 6. And I think it was sort of parallel to Kat, because Kat really, in the film at the beginning, she thinks she knows who she is, but she really doesn't. And she needed her friends and the people closest to her to help her find her way back to herself, or to see who she really is. So as much as Kajol was thrown into the deep end, I think the stories were parallel in some way, because I myself was journeying towards finding out who I actually really am.
And I'll tell you about Minnie. So, in our country, Minnie is South Africa's diamond. And I don't think, when you just remember that. Yes. Like, as in when media writes about her, that's how they refer to her as. And when I saw her and I went, but this chick could be a whole adventure. She could be super adventurous. She could be a mom, have the perfect life like the diamond, but also have this super adventurous spirit in her. And that is who she is in real life. She's got a super adventurous spirit. So drawing from that, I don't think was difficult for you, babe.
No, that was probably the best part. And I think that was the part of Lu that I was excited about the most, is that adventurous side, because I think a lot of people also don't know that side of me as well, other than like my close friends or my close circle. So I think that's one thing that people are going to see a lot of fun in this movie. People are going to see a lot of very interesting characters. But I do think there's some beautiful themes like sisterhood, like marriage, like motherhood, like friendship, and also just understanding the importance of choosing the life that you want to live and not the life that other people expect you to live. And that was one of the themes that came out very strongly in this film that I resonated with a lot, because I was in a very difficult place in my life when I was shooting this movie, and I was sort of scared to sort of come out and be like, yo, things aren't as peachy in my real life as I'm making it seem. And I think this movie was able to give me the confidence to be able to live my truth. And I'm very grateful for that. Art almost imitating life in some weird kind of twisted way.
I will tell you this story though, and I don't think I'll ever stop telling you this story. We, on our drunken night, had a deal that no one was going to get pregnant. And then I got a call like 6 months later from Kazo to say, hey, surprise.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm going to snap back in 3 months after the baby. We can shoot. All good. Vroom, I get another phone call. Hey, B, it's Minnie.
Gonna be shooting.
I just found out I'm having a baby.
I'll snap back in 3 months.
Then COVID hit, and it turned out everybody needed the time that they needed to go through their journeys and become who were they going to be. Yumi was like, hey guys, I know we had said that we had this movie, but I'm going for a quick operation. It's all going to be
yes. You also had your operation.
Yes. I was recovering mid-shooting, yeah.
That was crazy. And you were doing some very hectic scenes. I remember the one day you were doing the upside down cake scene, and I was just like, how is she doing?
How?
I was like, put it down. She's going to break.
That's just amazing to hear. It explains so much of the film now, like, you know, how organic it came across and how, like, you know, it was about everything you described, you know, the motherhood and things that you're saying you actually lived through in the process of making it. Now I understand why it was so different and why basically the selection happened before and you literally built a film around this bond. It's just so beautiful to see and hear. It really makes sense. And like, oh, that's why it was so different. So basically you wrote around the cast, Bianca, and so I'm hearing like there was all sorts of challenges in terms of pregnancies and unplanned health issues. But if you could tell us a little more, like exactly how long it took you kind of from start to finish and what was the overall budget or like some of the main challenges in the process. I know you've covered a lot of them already.
I think writing for the girls was quite simple, like having that in mind. We didn't adjust the story too much to fit into their personal lives. But in terms of the kids, we just ended up moving our shoot, which was great. I mean, we eventually shot in the middle of a pandemic. I remember we had just come back from Zanzibar and the country had gone into another lockdown. So it happened that everything fit. So the actors and the story for those characters didn't have to change too much or at all, really. My writing process is long. I think it took me about a year and then some. Tumi would always say, did you sleep last night? No. She's like, fuck, we got script changes.
True.
Very true.
So I guess it evolved like that, but it took me about a year and a half to write. And what was nice about it is that in that time, I had the opportunity to go and see these different places and come back and rework my script. And then I remember the one day where I was like, I've been there to Zanzibar. I'll just write something different, right? And Greg was like, no, you're not going to do that. Let's go. And then we just jumped on a plane and went there and saw it and went, okay, cool. Now I know for real. And so I was very fortunate in that sense to have those opportunities to go and do that. It helped my writing process a lot. And then it took us, I mean, we're in our 4th year right now. It's so weird, all the social media marketing we're doing. And every time I get there, especially in Jan, every time I get there, it's like, oh, 4-year anniversary from your last film. And I'm like, Jesus, we've been releasing a film every 4 years. It's long. It's long. And last year, this time, Kazu and I were doing a press tour for our previous film. So not last year, 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
So my process is longer than, I mean, I don't tweak until I'm tweaked. So it just takes a bit longer for me. Other people's process is different. Greg works way faster than me. I'm just slow like that. Yeah, I guess the budget is different. Like we started at $1 million. At the time, the exchange rate was, I think, 1 to 15. So roughly around 15 million. But we had so our finance structure was based on a lot of rebates. So not going to Mauritius really hit our budget. So we had to come back and rethink things of how we do it without that finance plan. But in the end, I think my distributors will say I spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's why they're making me work extra hard.
It's still the last line.
Thanks for sharing all of that. And everybody's process is their own process, I guess. For me, at least, authenticity was something that was like a big topic that ran throughout the story. Was that something that was important to you all, really, individually and personally?
Yeah, I think authenticity is always important. I try to reflect a world in which I live. So the race thing is not a thing for me, because the environment I live in, we don't see color. And we have a big group of friends and family that are across races and nationalities from around the world. So that was really important to me. But more than that, I wanted to create a friendship that was not specific to anything. So like, for example, here, and I suppose like in the States, you could create a movie for a group of friends that are very Johannesburg specific or Cape Town specific. And this group of friends, for me, felt like the everyday friends. We all know somebody who's gotten dumped or who's going through the most in their relationship, but definitely not going to leave that guy. We just have to, as friends, sit back and listen to that story over and over again. We all know somebody who's in their marriage who says, okay, I'm unhappy, but how am I going to deal with this? And to understand that making tweaks in your life are important in order for you to become happy. And that does not mean compromising who you are. And then the other character for me was, we all know that friend who's an actress, who's like, I'm an actress, and then they become this super diva who just is difficult all the time. And then when they move over to social media, it's like, oh my God, what are we doing now? So I thought about taking those, and I think people will relate to that across the world. It doesn't say, hey, look at me, I'm South African, these are the issues I'm dealing with. This could be any group of girls that you can find all over the world. And so that was really important to me, to tell that story. I guess when I know like the people we work with, when they're in post-production, I get a lot of, oh, B, I see you in this, or I see you in that, or this is exactly how you speak. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Yeah, I've heard you say that before to somebody. So I think the authenticity came through very nicely. And we took these three women who had known each other and put them together for a period of, I think we were together for like 5-6 weeks. And they just became electric. Their chemistry on screen is unbelievable. Everybody that's watched this film has said, are these guys friends in real life? That's how cool they are.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
true. With the three of us, and I know we are going to get this question after people watch the film, because we are colleagues and friends, but we never like really hung out often. I didn't hang out with you guys like on a social basis. We didn't chat often, but when we got together, we just got on like we were old friends. And I really do believe, I think when you're in the thick of it and when you are shooting, you really are unsure of how it will translate on screen. But what I was sure about was we did have chemistry because we had it with each other, behind the scenes and on set. And that was really beautiful. So I really think that is a question that will always be coming back to us about, hey guys, like, how good is your friendship like off screen? Because you were amazing, or your chemistry was incredible. It truly was. Just to touch on the authenticity thing, it's like a group of friends, and these are friends who are not just, when you become a mom, they're not your mom friends. These are your best lifelong friends, where you create these bonds. And it really is true, because if you have a friend who's just become a mother or is a mother, you probably will not see that friend for a year, but that friend is still your friend. And it's literally because they just don't have the time. And then if you have a friend who's in the entertainment industry or an actor and the other one is possibly not, everyone's on their own path and you just connect now and then, but it doesn't take apart the friendship, And this was just an opportunity that these three friends got to go away on a trip and, to reestablish that bond that they had. So it was a privilege to be able to do that.
You're going to keep getting that question for sure. I think it's also like just hat tip to whoever like contributed to creating that environment, right? Like that work environment where you could all just be yourselves and really form in that way, because I think it's so important and it's like a testimony to what can be achieved. And yeah, just so spectacular to see like the focus on these relationships. And like you said, Bianca, the story itself, the characters that really transcend the space and time. It could be anywhere, like you said, it could be a New York City thing or, Tokyo. It was more about like the relationships, but then the space and time was also really fun. So it just ticked all the boxes for us. And it's great to hear how it all went down. And then just a question that I ask, because, it's definitely a Pan-African film in every way that you've described. But I usually like to hear from each individual, what does Pan-Africanism itself mean to you?
I think it's the ability to create the connection in all different aspects of trade. So whether it be the arts, whether it be other industries, I think it's a way that everybody can share the African story without feeling like you are there, you are there, you are there. We're sharing the one African story. There's no Nigerian story. There's no, as much as there are films like that. There's still the African story, and the African story is a new set of women that are out there now that are capable of doing what they're doing. These characters. And being in the front of being leaders of society, or being leaders of other women in terms of inspiration and younger women. So I think it's the message. It's a Pan-African. I think it's every message you want to sell as an African continent. For me, that's what it means for me.
I think for me, Pan-African is when we start using more of what we have all together and start exporting that to the world. I think we tend to understand what our identity is in the global playing field versus just highlighting one region, which is what we've seen from African films in the past.
I think you said that really well, because I believe it's the connecting dots that basically connects us all together. And as much as we are different, we are also really similar. And it is about taking the story to the diaspora around the world, so that people can feel a little bit of home. And that is anybody whose roots are in Africa, who is anywhere around the world, where you feel that you resonate with it in some way. So that for me is very much what the Pan-African is.
When I hear Pan-African, especially in storytelling, I just think the heart of Africa. The continent is welcoming. The continent is a melting pot. You land anywhere on this continent, you can make home and be made home. It is mother. That's Africa. And so when any story is called Pan-African, I go, it's your birthplace story. It's your origin story, regardless of how light it is. This is a comedy whose heart is very African, because it is very African to have love at the center of everything. It is very African to have community and your village at the center of everything. And that was the story. And for me, in fact, that is when I hear a story Pan-African and I watch it, you always get that sense. There's that what's that word? You are answerable to someone. And so that's when I hear Pan-African, I go, I know I'm going to relate to the heart, and I'm going to relate to the belonging. So yeah, I guess that's Pan-African for me.
Pan-African for me, very bad with words, but I showed it in pictures and sound.
It's a quick answer. That's a very quick answer. In and out.
Yeah. Just watch the film.
That's what I did.
I think what was important for me really, and I touched on it earlier in terms of blending in a film, that can explore cultural identities without saying, hey, look at me, I'm Indian. Hey, look at me, I'm African. Africa being colonized the way it was, right now, we can't tell you by your skin color if you are African or not. And so what we know a modern day Pan-African to be is not necessarily what the older market might think of. And so visually, we chose Zanzibar and Swahili as that, and it reflects in the music because there's this rich culture of Indian music, of beautiful African, and when I say African, there's South African music in there, there's Nigerian music in there, there's Tanzanian music in there, we even have a Zimbabwean collaboration in there. And so it may not come across in the actors, and I think human beings tend to say, oh, is this film Pan-African? Or I don't see actors from all over Africa.
Yeah.
But if you look at the film as a whole, from its creation all the way till the end, musically and visually, that's Pan-African. That would be my biggest expression of Pan-African.
I feel like it's something, or like conceptually, that we've all thought about. And so I just love to have the podcast as an opportunity, because most of the time people don't express it to each other. But it's usually something you've each individually kind of reflected on, and it comes across, and everybody's version is just so beautiful to me. Thanks for sharing. It was definitely, to me, a very Pan-African film, the vibrancy, the setting, like I said, and I love that it was all just such a wonderful blend. Yeah, and just to kind of close in, tell us about your future plans for the honeymoon, and like, where can our audience watch the film?
So we're going to be at PAF. We're screening on the 14th of February. So we got a Valentine's screening. And we're also screening on the 19th of Feb. So you could catch us downtown Crenshaw.
Downtown Crenshaw.
We've just gotten selected. In fact, we've just gotten selected into the Echo Film Festival. So we'll be able to catch the film in Nigeria for a short period. And then we're opening in South Africa on the 31st of March. And then we're going to Sydney after that, where we're still screening for a small group of people in Sydney. And then you'll probably see us on a streamer later on in the year.
The theater run.
Look, it's quite a big task for us. We're the only local film going to the cinema this year. So no pressure, guys.
This has been so much fun. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is really your space now. If you want to tell us about kind of even just personal fun facts, or share media pages, websites, anything else regarding yourselves, your careers, the film.
So I just want to say thank you so much for this. Please make sure you watch The Honeymoon. Follow us on all social media platforms.
Follow me, Tumi_Marake, on Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. Watch The Honeymoon movie.
You can follow us on Instagram at Honeymoon Movie, and on Facebook at Honeymoon Movie. And you could follow us on Twitter at Movie Honeymoon. Don't choose Honeymoon Movie on Twitter. It's someone else's movie.
Yes.
So at Movie Honeymoon on Twitter. And yeah, we'd love some support from around Africa and the US, since our film is going to be playing there. We might be playing in a new festival called the New Africa Film Festival. We're just waiting for that kind of information, but we will keep you posted on the different places you can catch us. Follow us, like us, talk about us.
Guys, do we have any fun facts to give to offer?
Fun fact?
That would be nice.
Fun fact?
Yeah.
What? That we share baby stories every day.
Well, okay, this may not be a fun fact, but what was extremely heartwarming for me was being a first-time mother, and I had to leave my son at home. And on set, many a time, I would be very down because I missed my child and I didn't know how to navigate this. And what was amazing is that our set was filled with women, and also a lot of mothers that I didn't even know that they were mothers. And without me saying a word, they would come up to me and say, I know you're missing your son. And I'm like, how do you know that? I didn't say anything. But they just knew. And they would give me a hug, whether it's to me or whether it's Lee, our makeup artist, whether it was Beauty, or even Bianca, they just knew. And I think it really made me feel like comfortable, and it made me feel loved on set at the same time. So it may not be a fun fact, but I think that was such a beautiful thing that I did not expect. And being on a set with a lot of women really brought, women do have this sort of feminine power and compassion that that guys don't have. And I really treasured that on set. Definitely.
I will fun fact it for you, Coach. Every time we were ready to shoot, they were like, "Where's Kajol?" "Oh, she's pumping." So then we'd all have to take
That's true.
break
That's
while
true.
she pumps.
Oh, wait, no, real fun fact. So while I was in Zanzibar, so I'm still breastfeeding my son, I was pumping like 3 times a day. And what do you do with this liquid gold? Like, what do you do with it? So I don't know who said this to me and sent me a link to a news, like a news channel and a news clip where they were selling breast milk to like bodybuilders and stuff, and you could make a lot of money. So someone said,
Tanzania.
"Why don't you go out into the street?" Yes, go out into the streets and just sell it, which we didn't do. We just washed our face with it, and then I gave it to whoever wanted to. Washed our face, had a shower with it. I could not waste it. Yeah, that is a fun fact. Right. And I think it was Sydney who sent that. I think it was.
Oh, it must have been Sydney. Yeah, it might have been Sydney. Yeah.
It was Sydney who sent that clip.
He was the production accountant, so he would say sell that milk.
Yeah, it's liquid gold, people. What do you do with it? But
That's
yes,
insane.
anyway, that was my fun fact. So please watch the film when it is on your end of the world, and please follow us on social media and the film. And Bianca will give you our handle. Mine is really long.
And follow at Noks Rocks. And follow
Follow
Noks has an
Noks.
Instagram page. She's amazing. She really is. And one last fun fact about you, Kajol, because this is your story, was that she was the coconut water whisperer. And so every time she found someone selling coconuts, she'd tell them, "Don't buy those ones. The water's not going to be nice. Okay, buy that one. It's cool. It's good." And literally, this was Kajol the whole time in Zanzibar. We'd go on coconut water hunts. It was quite interesting and educational.
I kept you hydrated. What can I say?
You did. Saved my life.
Kept me fed. Kajol and Greg kept me fed because I wouldn't eat because we were just so busy. And then you just find food arriving, and Kajol's like, "Oh no, I ordered you something. I know you like this." And then Greg would send somebody with food the whole time. Can you just watch her eat her food quickly?
Yeah.
Or we were eating spiced mangoes on set. Or we were trying to finish our spiced mangoes on set because, they sell it on the street. And how can you not eat a spiced mango, So spiced mangoes and coconuts were free-flowing.
Last fun fact, something that is acknowledged with due respect to Bianca by everybody, cast and crew. She had the best legs on set. Everybody just looked forward to the director in a dress because we were like, that's our happy moment on set. Let's shoot. She brought the legs. So we really enjoyed that. And thank you, Bianca. I feel like you deserve your flowers. Your legs deserve their flowers.
Yes.
I won the Miss Congeniality Award, courtesy of Chubi Morake.
Oh, yeah. The Zanzibar Awards. After Unwrapped on the last day of shoot, we had the awards where Dumi had the categories, and you won Miss Congeniality.
She created these categories for people. It was at a rap party, and she was like, "I'm gonna just do like a little award ceremony for everybody."
Yeah, I was just thinking to be a fly on the wall at your rap party.
No, it was wild. It was crazy. It was crazy.
You know what's nice about the award? It's that everybody felt seen, because some people think they disappear into the background. And when you do something like that, they realize that you really are part of a unit and you are seen so much that you can even pinpoint what stands out about you on set. And I really think it's a great way to say goodbye to everyone because you're going, you are seen.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. That was so much fun.
And another one. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Pan-African Film Podcast. We are now on Spotify and Instagram. Just search Pan-African Film Podcast to follow and like us there. Our new platform is 360 Africa. That's 360 Africa. And we want to thank our Kenyan Vibe partners. Shout out to the KV squad. Last but not least, we thank our editor Ace. Please send us your feedback, like, follow, and comment.